Grief has a way of rearranging your entire world. And sometimes, if you're lucky, it rearranges you into someone better. What if the most devastating thing that ever happened to you became the very thing that made you show up for someone else in ways you never imagined? When my dad passed, I didn't know what to do with my hands. They just wanted to be useful, to fix something, to help somehow. So I started cooking meals for neighbors going through hard times, because I remembered how a single casserole left on our doorstep felt like the entire world saying, "We see you." Here's the thing, nobody tells you about loss. It doesn't just take a person. It takes all the small rituals you shared with them. My dad and I talked every Sunday morning, and when those calls stopped, that silence became the loudest thing I'd ever heard. So now I make Sunday calls not just to family, but to anyone I know who's living alone, grieving quietly, or simply going unnoticed. It sounds small, but loneliness is operating at a scale most of us underestimate. Researchers estimate that chronic loneliness affects roughly 1 in 4 adults in America, a number that has only grown since the early 2000s. There's a neighbor down the street, a widow in her late 70s, who told me that before I started calling, she'd sometimes go 4 or 5 days without hearing another human voice. That floored me not because the world is cruel, but because it's just distracted. Grief teaches you to stop being distracted, which is maybe its one brutal gift. You stop scrolling past the person who looks tired and start asking, what's actually going on? I brought a meal to a coworker after her mother died, and she cried not because of the food, but because she said no one had shown up yet, and it had already been 2 weeks. 2 weeks of casseroles going unmade, of a refrigerator too quiet and a heart too full of things no one asked about. People often think grief support requires grand gestures, therapy funds, memorial donations, elaborate planning. But the science of social connection is embarrassingly simple. Presence, repetition, and the radical act of remembering someone when they're no longer the crisis. I keep a literal note on my phone names of people I know who are hurting, and I rotate through them with texts, calls, or food drops like it's a schedule. It sounds clinical, but grief taught me that love without a system is just good intention. And good intention doesn't show up on a Tuesday with soup. The irony is almost funny. I had to lose someone to learn how to truly be there for others. Turns out, most of us are walking around emotionally available in theory and completely absent in practice. Don't mistake busy for caring. They are not the same country. They barely share a border. The people who showed up for me when my dad died weren't the ones who sent the longest messages. They were the ones who rang the doorbell. There's a beautiful and slightly absurd paradox in grief. The more you've lost, the more equipped you become to help others carry their own weight. You essentially earn a degree in humanity that no one wanted to apply for. If you've lost someone, you already know the texture of that silence, the weight of an unanswered call, the way a holiday can feel like a trap. Use that knowledge not to perform empathy, but to actually practice it with your schedule, your car keys, and your grocery list. One meal, one call, one intentional visit can be the difference between someone feeling invisible and someone feeling held. That is not an exaggeration. That is just what happens when you finally decide that showing up is the point. My dad was the kind of man who remembered everyone's birthday, who called just to say he was thinking of you, who never needed a reason to show love. I'm not him, but I'm trying to be the echo of him in every small act I can manage. Grief doesn't end, but it can evolve into something that creates rather than just consumes. The kindness I pass on isn't a replacement for what I lost. It's a conversation I'm still having with him, just through other people. So pick one person today, not tomorrow, not when things slow down and reach out, show up, or drop something off. Discipline and kindness, like discipline in anything, is just deciding to do the thing even when nothing is forcing you to. And if this resonated with you, if you're sitting with your own quiet loss and looking for a way to make it mean something, then we're already in this together. And if you like what we're building here, subscribe and check out all our other topics.